Alrighty, for everyone that is online, just wanted to let you guys know we'll probably be getting started here in just about 5 minutes. We're going to let those that are here in our office get settled in, grab some tacos, grab a drink, and find a seat. So just so you are aware, we are going to be starting in just about 5 minutes or so here. All right, and for those online that might not have heard my announcement, we'll be getting started here in just about a minute or two, letting everyone who's here in the office kind of get settled in. But just give us a minute and we'll be getting going.
Sorry, we're full. We're full. We can't. There's no more space for you.
Alrighty, thank you everyone online for being patient with us. I'm going to go ahead and just run through a couple of brief slides before we bring up Brad. But today, obviously, you are joining us for our little pop-up lunch and learn that we announced last week, how to dominate apartment investing in 2023. But real quickly, just like this class, we always host lunch and learns, we host socials, we host webinars, and we also host networking events, whether they're in-person pop-up happy hours or our national networking happy hour that we do online as well, the fourth Wednesday of every month. But for those of you, of course, that are online, and even those of you here, we always stream them on our YouTube and Facebook pages. So if you want to go back and watch the class, if you maybe have a friend that would be, that would get benefit from this class, go ahead and send it to them. Those are always there, and we have a great repertoire of classes to choose from. We would love to have you join us for our Masters of Tax Avoidance Bootcamp that we're going to be doing in Houston on the 30th of March. We have a pretty good lineup of speakers and topics that we have been solidifying this week, so we'll be announcing that really soon, and we're excited for that. But that one's going to be at the Moody Center on a Thursday, like I said, the March 30th. And we're going to have panels that, we're going to talk about oil and gas, mineral rights, and then we're also going to, of course, with it being right before tax filing deadline, have a couple panels and keynotes that have to do with that as well. So be sure to join us. We'll have some, coupon codes that we'll be dropping in the StreamYard links for you. And I know most of you might have heard my kind of pitch last time, but if you would like to get half off of your ticket, use MTA, that's M as in masters, T as in tax, A as in avoidance, 50 for 50% off. And then if you know somebody that is ready to get started with their self-directed IRA, maybe you have a syndication coming up, you want to group a whole pool of people together, self-directed IRAs are a great place to tap into those funds. So refer your friends, have them open up an account. You will get a credit to your account, and they'll also get a credit to their new account as well. And then, lastly, of course, if you have any questions, you can always speak to any one of our IRA specialists, either online via the live chat feature, the email, or you can call us or scan this QR code to set up a consultation. For those that are here in office, if you all have questions, myself and Ingrid, we're the IRA specialists here, we can always help you out. And then without further ado, that's the end of my presentation. So we're going to go ahead and pull up Brad's presentation back there in the back and bring him up. But I'm sure most of you guys have heard the name Brad Sumrok before. If you haven't, we're so glad to have you on with us for the event because he truly is the apartment king. The name doesn't come without all the what's the word I'm looking for? Everything to back it up. But he's going to come today and teach us a little bit about how you can dominate apartment investing for the 2023 year. And without further ado, let's give him a round of applause.
Okay. All right. Should I use the microphone, or this is on, right?
Yep, the lavaliers on.
Okay.
They'll be able to hear.
Well, it's nice to see everybody at home today, and those of you, we have a full house here in Austin, Texas. And there's a couple things I want to talk about. And it's really about, how do we make 2023 an amazing year. I say let's dominate in 2023. And I looked at like what I've done and what some of my mentors are doing. Two of my main mentors are Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone. And so I like to study people that are, 2 or 3 levels above me in terms of income and wealth. I mean, Tony, many people don't know this, but 20% of Tony Robbins' investment portfolio is in apartment buildings. And how I know that is I go to his masterminds, and some of these masterminds are on different areas of life, relationships, health, spirituality, but a lot of them are also on business and investing in money. That's what he calls the wheel of life. And his financial advisor presented in our small group, not in 8,000 people, but maybe in front of a few hundred, how Tony actually invests and what his portfolio looks like. And 40% of Tony's portfolio is in real estate. And he's close to a billionaire. I don't know, both him and Grant Cardone both say they're billionaires, but I don't know if they're really billionaires, but they're worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, close, easily over $500 million, okay? 40% of Tony's portfolio is in real estate, and 70% of the 40% is in multifamily real estate. So if you think about that, 70% of 40% is 28%. So that's a large amount of money. And then Grant, of course, also has a lot of apartments with Cardone Capital. And so he has a lot of his wealth is also in owning businesses, okay? He owns 16 different companies. But what I've done is I looked at what I've done to literally 100x my own wealth in the past 20 years. And what I mean by that is, so I started, I'll just tell you all a little bit about me if you don't know, but I started like so many people with a job. My parents never graduated from college. My dad made $42,000 a year, got 3 years of engineering school, never finished his degree to marry my mom. And they had a baby. They had my older sister. And my mom, growing up, just constantly impressed upon me how important it was to finish a degree. And my dad's boss was an engineer. And I remember he made $80,000 a year because my parents would talk about that type of stuff. And that vacation to Hawaii on an airplane, and we lived in Pittsburgh, and we would vacation to Lake Erie in a station wagon. And so that's how I knew that my blueprint, my framework, like we all have a recipe, a blueprint, a framework, a system. And my system that I learned to be successful was to study hard and go to college. Okay, and that's what I did. And it wasn't until I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 2001 where I had a different framework, right? How many of you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? And how many of you at home read that book? And then his second book, he talks about the cash flow quadrant. E stands for employee, B stands for business owner. Well, there's ES. E stands for employee, S stands for self-employed. And that's on the left side, and then on the right side there's B and I, and B stands for business owner and I stands for investor. And he talked about that E's and S's are the types that they work for money and they pay more taxes. They work for money and pay more taxes. And the B's and the I's have money and people work for them and pay less taxes. And the reason they pay less taxes, it's not because of some loophole or some illegal thing. It's because our government writes a framework, a blueprint, a recipe for what one needs to do to pay less tax. So like if the government wants you to invest in clean energy, they're going to give you tax incentives, right? If the government wants you to invest in housing, like they do, and provide housing, you get tax incentives. If the government wants you to start a company and invest in people and hire people, then you get tax incentives. But the middle class, all we hear is, oh, companies don't pay enough tax, Donald Trump doesn't pay enough tax, rich people don't pay enough tax, investors don't pay enough tax. But the reason it's not going to change is whether they're Republican or Democrat, most of them own businesses and real estate. And so even when there was 8 years under Obama, we still had very favorable tax laws, and we still do now under Biden, okay? And we certainly did under Trump, okay? So where I'm going with that is there's 10 things that I looked at that are really important if you want 2023 to be awesome. So I just want to walk through these, and you can't see it on the slide here because I sent my slide deck over to Quest, and the fonts didn't translate greatly, but that's okay. But number one is you need to have a powerful why. Like, why is 2023 going to be outstanding? You know, and how many of you have heard, like, you need to have a why? And it almost sounds so cliche. But I couldn't believe my ears. I was at another event here in Austin yesterday, and a guy stood up and said, I've been studying real estate for 5 years, but I haven't done a deal yet. I'm like, thank God you're not my student, because that'd kick your ass. Like, how can you be studying for 5 years and done nothing? It's like, that sounds like what you do when you go to get a PhD or something, right? I'm studying for 5 years and I'm still in school. But I told him, I said, I just don't think you have a strong enough why. Okay? And my why when I started was I was making $10,000 a month in a job, and I was fired once, laid off once, was told I didn't work hard enough, wasn't good enough, didn't have what it took to climb up the ladder. And after 17 years in 5 companies, I was frustrated. And so my why after reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad was to replace my job income with investment income. And it was very powerful. I didn't start with how am I going to find deals, how am I going to raise money, how am I going to manage the deal. Tony Robbins says if you start with how, you're already, that's the wrong question to ask. If you want a better result, you ask a better question. The question you want to ask if you want to be successful, if you want 2023 to be outstanding, is to say, how do I make this? No, why must I make 2023 the best year ever? Not how. You say, why must 2023 be the best year of my life? And what does that look like? And then you commit to it, which is number 2. You commit to it. You go all in. You don't put one toe in the water. You go in, okay, 100%. You go all in. And then you want to have goals. You want to have SMART goals. What is a SMART goal? It's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's relevant, and it's time sensitive. So you don't want to just say, okay, so you say, what is my why? Why must 2023 be my best year ever? But then let's start narrowing it down, and what does that look like? And financially, there's a few KPIs. I like to measure KPIs. Like a KPI, like for your body, it might be your weight. It might be your body fat percentage. It might be your circumference around your waist that you can measure. So these are things that you could track on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to see if you're on track or not. By the way, those are the things I measure. I weigh myself every morning. Some people were like, oh, that's stupid. I don't weigh myself. I just go by how I feel. And I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me, So if my pants are tight, I know that I'm off track. If I get on the scale and anything over 160 pounds, I know I'm off track. I don't really do the body fat measurements that often because that is something I need to do out of the house, okay? So just like with your body, there's certain KPIs that I look at with your business and your money. And one of them is, do you have cash flow coming in do you have money working for you? Do you have mailbox money? When I started as an apartment investor, I had no mailbox money. My only money was I was trading time for money, and I had a job, and then I got paid. But now I have tons of mailbox money. I just crossed over the 10,000 unit threshold. I don't own 10,000 units outright, but I'm a general partner, meaning I have ownership interest, substantive ownership interest in over 10,000 apartment units. And that puts a lot of mailbox money into my pocket, okay? So you want to have a SMART goal for how much cash flow do you have from your investments. You want to have a SMART goal for how much can you reduce your taxes. How many of you want to reduce your taxes? Does anyone want to reduce their taxes? Or do you just feel good about paying the government for roads, schools, and bridges? I don't. If I knew the money went to roads, schools, and bridges, maybe I'd feel better. But, other countries' economies are depending on your tax dollars, And I'll just say it that way, right? So, yeah, I don't want to pay. I want to pay the legally least amount of tax, the legally least amount of tax. So I have SMART goals around my tax. I have SMART goals around my cash flow. I have SMART goals around my net worth. 17 years after corporate America, my net worth was about 700K, meaning like I had 2 degrees and the sum of my assets minus my liabilities, the money in the bank, my investments, my house, minus my mortgage and all my debts was about 700K at the time I was 35. Now I'm 55, it's over 70 million. So in 20 years, went from 700K to 70 million. That's 100x over 20 years. So that is what I mean by having like a SMART goal around net worth, a SMART goal around taxes, and a SMART goal around cash flow, okay? And then with multifamily, some of the SMART goals that I have are around deals and doors. I'm like, how many deals am I going to do, and how many doors am I going to be invested in? So those are like the 5 things that I track: deals, doors, net worth, taxes, and cash flow, okay? The next thing I talk about is you really want to assess yourself. Like, if you go to a doctor and you're sick, they don't just give you a prescription. They try to give you a what? A diagnosis, right? An exam, right? If you go to a trainer, like a personal trainer, a fitness trainer, they probably don't just start working out with you. They probably assess you. What's your diet like? What are your goals? Where are you at? Let's do your body measurements. Let's take a baseline. And we should do the same thing with apartment investing. And so what I've done with my team is we've created a really simple assessment. It's 10 or 20 questions. It takes 5 minutes to fill out. And if you complete the assessment, you'll be able to know, like, where am I at? What are my skill sets? What resources do I bring to the table with skills and mindset and money? And where do I want to be? And then you'll see the gaps. Does that make sense? You'll be able to see the gaps. And so I want to show you, there's a QR code I have for an assessment. And if you want to do this assessment, it's free. Just take a picture of that. And it'll take you 10 minutes. And even if you're not going to do apartments, but by the way, it is designed for apartments, but it's going to help you see, like, okay, it's going to help you come up with 3 things. Where are you at with your finances, your mindset, and your skill sets? Where do you want to be in 1 year? And then you'll see gaps, okay? And one of the things Tony Robbins talks about is to get to where you want to go, you got to know where you're at. It's like I drove from downtown Austin to here. And I didn't just, I had to put in what's my starting location in my GPS. And then I had to put in what's my destination. And so when I put in my starting location and my destination, then it said it's going to take you 16 minutes to get there. And this is the step-by-step directions that you need. And so an assessment's kind of the same thing. It's going to help you determine your point A, your point B, and then you can create a roadmap to get there. Does that make sense, everybody? Does that make sense? So let me go back. So number 5. Okay, number 5. Grant Cardone hit this on the head. I just did a masterclass with him. Some of you may have been on it. It was Monday afternoon, just 2 days ago. And Grant's doing a free event January 24th through 28th, and he's going to teach things about how he became so successful in business. And what he said was, he goes, I'm not here to motivate you. I'm here to give you a system. And it's the same system that I've done for 16 companies. And so what I want to tell you is, if you want to be a successful apartment investor, you want to follow a system, okay? And my most successful students, I do think that I am able to inspire them and motivate them. But there's the other part of me that's like, that's not my job. You got to show up being inspired and motivated already. And if you're inspired and motivated, and I can help with that, but if you're inspired and motivated, you will learn the system that I've learned to 100x my own finances over the last 20 years. You will learn the system that I've taught and transferred to hundreds and hundreds of people. And over 600 of my students have become millionaires in apartments, or some of them are already millionaires, but they increased their net worth by over $1 million from doing apartments by following a system that I'm able to take from my head, put it down on paper and trainings, and transfer it to people, okay? So what is my system? Well, I'll talk about that in a minute, okay? Number 6, you want to learn from success. In the Sumrok program, okay, the way I teach is I take what I've done that works and I teach you what works. I have 11 coaches on my team that work with me and for me. And they're successful apartment investors. So we take what works for them and we teach you. And then we have hundreds and hundreds of students that are succeeding. And we also have people that are struggling. And we don't say, hey, let's look at the people that are struggling and learn from them. We say, let's look at the people that are succeeding and learn from them. Does that make sense? Tony Robbins says it best, success leaves clues. You know, Tony is like 6'9", and he's had and continues to have, to some extent, different ailments. You know, he had enlarged pituitary glands and giant syndrome and all these things. And he didn't look at all the people that had those things and died early. He found, you know, the few people that had what he had that succeeded and found what did they do. You know, what doctors did they go to? What protocol did they follow? What food did they eat? What foods did they eliminate? Right? What did they do to succeed? And so, because success leaves clues, there's a formula for success. So I think that's important. Number 7 is get a mentor or a coach. I would love to mentor you. I have a 3-day event coming up where I can mentor you from the stage for 3 days. And on that event, I will teach my framework. I will take it from my head onto the PowerPoint slides, and over a 3-day period of time, transfer it to you in the audience, okay? So what is my framework? Number 1, before you invest your money in a deal, see, there's a lot of gurus out there that just say, get into deals. Get into deals. But you know what? The number 1 thing that will determine whether you do a second deal, it's if the first deal goes well, right? So we want to make sure that we're in alignment on this. If you agree that you want to make sure your first deal goes well, you want to make sure that you're following a framework, and it helps to have somebody whispering in your ear or holding your hand as you go through that journey, okay? So I have a 3-day event coming up, March 24, 25, 26 in Dallas. I'll give you the information on that before I stop today. But I'm going to teach you the framework. I'm going to teach you how to understand deals, what makes a good deal, what makes a bad deal, how do you evaluate deals. That's step 1, is like understanding how to evaluate deals. Wouldn't you want to understand how to evaluate a deal before you just invested? Some people invest for the stupidest reasons. Oh, I met this guy and we had a beer together and he's got a deal going and we exchanged cards and it sounds great. Yeah, but what do you really know about, do you understand what NOI is, cap rate, a projection? You know, do you understand what vacancies and expenses should be? You don't have to be an expert at this, but you should understand some of it. So I teach that. I teach how to find deals and how not to find deals and where to find deals and the best ways to find deals and from whom. And then once you find them, you got to evaluate them. You got to do the numbers. So I teach that. And then I teach how to get them funded. And to get them funded, you need to put a down payment. And that could either be from you, but what most of us do, including me, is we learn how to raise money from other people. You know, if you're going to buy a $10 million deal, you're going to need $3 million down and a $7 million loan. So where do you get the $3 million? And how do you approach people? And how do you not approach people? And then how do you get the $7 million from a bank? So I teach that. And then, so once you understand it, once you find it, once you evaluate it, once you fund it, now you got to close it. And I go through the steps and the nuances and the logistics of like due diligence, forming your entity, structuring your deal, okay, everything to get you to the closing table. And of course, after it's closed, now you got to manage and implement it, okay? So all that is what I teach March 24, 25, 26, okay? Number 8, being part of a community. Being part of a community is so powerful. I am personally we have our own Sumrok community, and I am in a community with Tony Robbins. I'm in a community with Grant Cardone. These are expensive, but they're not. Like the price point, like there's a group I'm in, it's $100,000. And to get in, you have to have an 8-figure or a 9-figure business. And it's limited to 100 people at 100,000. It's called 100M because it's 100 people at 100,000 each. And I look over the past year and I think, what did I learn? And I have a whole notebook of stuff that I learned. And then I look at it and I say, what did I learn that I actually implemented? And being honest, it's less. Like I learned this stuff, but I haven't put everything into action. Does that make sense? But the biggest thing that I got is there's 4 people I met over the past year that moved the needle for me. I met Bobby Castro and Sophia Castro. They're worth $600 million. They're personal friends of mine. How do you put a price tag on being friends with somebody? Like we've been on a trip together. We've been on a yacht together. They came to celebrate my birthday. How do you become friends with someone worth $600 million? You just come up to them and say, hey man, like, I'd like to do something with you. They'd be like, yeah, you and everybody else, right? But because we were in the same room and we broke bread together and we had, proximity to each other, we had 3 times a year, we had 3 to 4 nights together, and we formed a bond. Okay, that happens when you're in a community. I met Kent Clothier. He's another 9-figure business owner. I used to ask, who would I love to have at my event speaking on my stage? And Kent Clothier was one of those people. And then he spoke at our mastermind. And then the cool thing was I spoke at his mastermind, and we became friends. So I look at the community and I say, well, what did I learn? A lot. What did I implement? Less. And then if you just look at it from that perspective, you'd say, oh, maybe the 100K wasn't worth it. But then I ask, who did I become friends with? And if you have a friendship with somebody that is at a level above you, you're going to do. I spent $100,000 for four meetings with Grant Cardone. And I didn't ask him anything about apartments. I didn't ask him about evaluating deals. It was always about, like his mindset, his confidence, his swag, because I want to have more swag. I want to have more confidence. I want to care less about what you all think about me, honestly, even though I want you all to like me, but I want to care less about that. Like, Grant's like, yeah, I have, 2 million people that follow him, or 8 million people that know him. And he goes, there's 8 billion people in this world. I don't focus on how many people I know. I see the opportunity. Like, I need to level, like he just told me the other day, he goes, I need to level up because let's say 8 million people know me. And out of those 8 million, maybe 2 million love him and 6 million don't. And he doesn't focus on the 6 million that don't. His tribe is the 2 million that love him. But he's like, Brad, there's 8 billion people out there. How do I get how do I get more people to know who I am? Because he says money follows attention. Like if they don't know you, how are you going to influence them and do business with them and collaborate with them? And then number 9 is you got to take action. Okay, you can learn, you can have a framework, you can be in a community, you can have a mentor, but if you don't take action, and when I say action, I don't just mean take small steps. You got to take big action and do big deals. And this is what we do at the Sumrok community. So I'm just going to advance this a little bit. I talked about the big 5 for SMART goals. Think about how many of you have not done an apartment deal yet? Have you done an apartment deal? You've done apartment deals. Have you done an apartment deal? What kind? One? Oh, 1 minute? I called on you when you have food in your mouth?
It's a development deal.
It's a development deal. Okay. Well, again, whatever you're doing, hopefully you could apply some of this stuff. Like how many more deals are you going to do this year? How many doors are you going to buy? How many doors are you going to build? I don't build, I buy. Okay? What's your current net worth right now? What's your current cash flow from your investments? How much taxes do you pay? And then think about by the end of this year, January 18th, 2024, where is that number going to be? 1 year from today. Where's that number going to be? Okay. So that's the QR code again for the assessment. Hopefully you all took a picture of that. And it's going to help you understand, where you're at and where you want to go. And you'll see the gaps in yourself in terms of money, skills, resources, belief systems. Okay? I talked about the framework. That slide didn't transfer over well. That's okay. But I talked about understanding deals, finding deals, funding deals, and closing deals. I talked about success leaving clues. Success leaving clues. Again, it's important that we study success. Okay? No matter where you're at, there's somebody that built a yellow brick road that's gone down that path before you. It makes no sense to try to reinvent the wheel and do it yourself when there's already a blueprint and a success story. Like everybody knows the story of Roger Bannister. He was the first human being to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And up until that point, nobody ever thought they could. It was like they didn't even train, like trainers didn't even encourage their students to set their goals to be under 4 minutes because it was inhumanly possible until Roger did it. And then after he did it, like 97 other people did it the same year. So it wasn't humanly impossible. It was impossible in the mindset of humanity. Okay? So one person made the difference. So I mentioned, that slide didn't translate either. I just sent these over to Quest like 3 minutes before. I have a weird font package. When you see this going forward, you'll just know that that's what happened. But the bottom line is, if you see that picture, there's me on a stage in front of, at that event was probably around 500 or 600 people. And what's going to happen March 24th, 25th, and 26th is I'm going to be on a stage in front of 500 or 600 people. And I'd like for you to be one of those people. Okay? And I'm going to go through the framework. So this slide here has everything you need to know about my upcoming event. March 24, 25, 26. If you invest in this event into the Platinum ticket, it's also a bonus day March 27th. Okay, so the bonus day March 27th is only for the Platinum tickets. And if you see what it says on the slide, it says, I'm going to teach you the framework to become a millionaire apartment investor. So if you want to be a millionaire apartment investor and learn from a multi-millionaire apartment investor and be surrounded by a community of other millionaire apartment investors, because people like Maricela will be there, and she's in my community, and she's a millionaire apartment investor, then you want to be mentored and coached and be in a community with millionaire apartment investors. And so that's what's going down. So there's a QR code there. I'll put it up here again. The top didn't translate over. But there is a promo code where you could get $100 off. And the promo code, I'm going to read it because it's cut off on the slide. It's Sumrok 100. So when you take a picture of that QR code, it'll bring you to the registration site. And when you're going to check out, if you put in Sumrok 100, it's S-U-M-R-O-K. There's no C in my last name. I should tell my team, maybe do it both ways, with Sumrok with a C and Sumrok without a C, because we get questions about that, honestly. Hey, I put in your name and the code didn't work. Yeah, you spelled it wrong. Okay? But it's S-U-M-R-O-K 100. And it'll give you $100 off the general admission ticket. And that ticket's $299, so it'll go from $299 to $199. And it'll also give you $100 off the platinum ticket. That ticket is $699. You get the bonus day, an extra day, and you get the seating in the front part of the conference. Whenever I go to conferences, I always want to be in the front 2 rows. Because I have ADD, and if I'm in the back, I tend to drift. I tend to, you're in the front, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's not a lot of people, there's not that many people here in person, but you're right here in front of me. Because it's hard to drift, right? Like, if you're back there, you're on your phone, and you're looking at traffic, and you're thinking about what you're going to have for lunch. But if you're here, right in front of the speaker, it's like, oh shit, he saw me on my phone, right? Like when I was doing the assessment. Oh, good. When I do the Tony Robbins event, I pay for that front row seat. I pay because if I'm just one of 500 in the middle or in the back, I drift, okay? So the platinum gets you not guaranteed front row, but it gets you in the front section. It gets you a bonus day 4, and then you have lunches with me the first 2 days. So the platinums will go, and we'll have more time. Like I'll be teaching all day, and then at lunch we'll go together and we'll do like Q&A and stuff, okay, at the platinum lunches. So that's that. And I want to close with a story, okay? I want to close with a story. In November, it was just about 2 months ago, the middle of November, I have a multifamily mastermind, and there's about 180 people in it. Maricela and their husband Chris are in it. And we go away 3 times a year for about 4 nights, and we go deep in content, about multifamily, about challenges, about what's happening. But we also have deep conversations about other things that matter in life. And when you leave that event, you come back a different person. Well, in November, we partnered up with one of the world's best, Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jesse Itzler, but he's married to Sarah Blakely, who was the first female billionaire under 40 for starting Spanx clothing. And Jesse's her husband, and he's an amazing individual, and he's a multi-hundreds of millions. He himself, without Sarah, is worth hundreds of millions of dollars as well from his business background. But Jesse likes to do physical, extreme things. So we took our mastermind and we partnered with Jesse and we went camping. We literally slept in tents in a field and rented a campground. And one of the activities we did was Jesse brought in pools and filled them with ice water. And we got to do cold plunging. Now, how many of you have heard that cold plunging has health benefits? I hate cold water. Like, I can't even take a lukewarm shower. Like, it has to be hot. Okay, I didn't grow up with much. We had a basement shower where my mom used the only upstairs bathroom in the house, and then me and my dad and my 2 brothers, we used the shower in the basement that my dad built. And a lot of times the basement didn't have hot water. I don't know why. I mean, we had a small hot water heater, I guess, in our house. But the bottom line is, I hate cold plunging. And Jesse said, okay, we are going to have the opportunity to go in a cold plunge for up to 2 minutes. And he said, he didn't say 2 minutes. He said up to 2 minutes. So I set a goal right then and there that I was going to go in that ice bath for 30 frickin' seconds. That's not bad, right? He said up to 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I had jumped in, have you ever jumped in an ice bath before or a cold plunge in a spa? Did you like it? It sucks. About 5 seconds. Yeah, it sucks for 5 seconds, and then your body acclimates. The point is, I never made it through the first 5 seconds. I would get in, and I'm like, I'm out of here. You know? So I decided, because of that, 30 seconds would be really good for me. So the first step is we're in a seminar, like the one you would come to in March, but we're in the seminar, and the coaches from the stage are teaching about the benefits of cold plunging, and they're teaching you what's going to happen when you get in there, and they're teaching you how you need to breathe when you're in there. So now I'm educated. Then we go out, and we're standing in line to go in the pool, the cold pools. They're portable, they look like kiddie pools with ice in them. I was not in the first group. There were 10 pools, and so the first 10 people go in, and every single person made it 2 minutes. What do you think happened to my goal of 30 seconds after I saw 10 people do 2 minutes? Do you think I kept my goal at 30 seconds? No. And because it was my group and these were my students, if they could do 2 minutes, now I have to do 2 minutes. Does this make sense? The second group of 10 goes in. And 9 out of 10 people for 2 minutes. And one wussy boy got out after 47 seconds. And I won't tell you who it is. He got out after 47 seconds. Oh, I shouldn't have said wussy boy. If you're watching right now, I didn't mean that. But I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to be the 1 out of 20 that gets out. There's accountability in being in a community. When other people around you are doing it, you have to level up. Or you either have to level up or get out. Right? It's like if you can't step up and be more confident when you see other people around you doing it that aren't any... These 19 out of 20 people, they weren't better at handling cold than me. They didn't have more body fat. They didn't, And so now it's my turn, and I decided I have to do 2 minutes. Like, it's an absolute must for me. I have to do 2 minutes. So I get in the water, and as she said, the first 5 to 15 seconds were extreme pain. And my mind was telling me, get out, get out, get out, get out. I don't need to do this. I don't care that everybody else did it. I'm not everybody else. I'm Brad Sumrok. I'm coming up with all the reasons I'm going to get out of that cold plunge. But then the coach is whispering in my ear. And when she's hitting the fan, she's whispering in my ear. And she's getting me to regulate my breathing. Within 28 seconds, I was calm. I was breathing 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. And she's whispering in my ear while I'm in that ice bath. And the last 1 minute and a half was easier than the first 28 seconds. So I want to tell you that education matters. It was important that I was in the conference getting the background of what's going to happen. Accountability in community matters because I watched 19 out of 20 people succeed before me. And just like I didn't think I could do, just like people didn't think they could run a 4-minute mile, now I knew that 30 seconds, I was selling myself short. But the mentoring, when shit hit the fan, mattered too. So the Sumrok community has all of that. We have the 3-day education. Okay? We have the community. And we have the coaching and the mentoring when shit hits the fan, and we hold your hand as you go through your deals. So I want to invite you to start a journey with me and my team. And for you, my wish is that you select me to mentor you for 3 days, March 24, 25, 26. Come to the conference, learn the framework, figure out what you need to do to make 2023 your best year ever. I'm going to walk you through it for 3 days. And at the end of the 3 days, you're only going to have one decision. You're going to have everything you need to go and do it yourself, Or you could say, hey, Brad, I want you and your team to hold my hand as I go and do this. So that's how I want to finish. That's what I'm all about. That's what the Sumrok program is all about. This is what my passion is. And I don't know if people online, Sarah, have the opportunity to ask any questions.
We don't have any questions, but I have been posting the code and everything.
Okay.
So they've got that.
Okay, great. So then I'm just going to say thank you. I'm going to say goodbye. And I'll stay here for all of you here in Austin, Texas in person and answer all of your questions. So thanks, everybody online. Appreciate you. I hope to see you in March.
Awesome. Let's give Brad a round of applause. I'm going to go ahead and leave this screen up for those that are still online, maybe reading through those comments. But be sure to scan the QR code. Check this out. I've attended some of these events just as, the Quest sponsor, and he really does pack the room, and the energy is great, the education is great, and the people are great. So be sure, like I said, scan this QR code. If you have questions about self-directed IRAs or any of the events that we put on, of course, feel free to, like I said, call us, email us, use the chat box feature, and we'll be able to help you as well. But thanks for tuning in, and we will see you for Self-Directed IRA Saturday in just a couple days. All right, bye-bye.
All right. Are we offline? I can honestly say this was the only time in...
Let me make sure.
All right.